you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, Be VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all. Hello, hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Be Victorious. Of course, you know who I am. I'm Dr. Victorious, and I am here with a special guest. So, we have been at this podcast for 3 years, and I am so excited to have our guest that we have. I'm heavy into coaching, you guys, as I'm going through my healing journey. And just to have her here, I am so excited. I love when she comes on social media. You can tell through her lived experiences, she is that coach. And she has helped me out tremendously. We actually give a lot of feedback to each other. And I am happy to have Chantal here. She is the narcissistic coach, the one that I go to for resources. She has free resources on her website. She has master classes. She has a group. She has everything for people like us. We both live in the household dysfunction umbrella of ACEs, but to have this conversation, it's my pleasure. Chantal, where are you?
I'm here.
That's my girl. Hey, how are you?
I am so great. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I think it's cool because we actually have had this respect for each other for a while. I respect your coaching and what you have and the things that you present to a community that needs that awareness. People don't know really what narcissist is or narcissistic personalities and that type of thing. And as someone with ACEs, I just think it's important for people to know not only about coaching, but about because household dysfunction and narcissism falls under that umbrella in ACEs. I really think we have a community that wants to know, but don't have that understanding. So I wanted to kind of do something different than we normally do. Usually we have people share their stories, and we definitely want you to share, but we found out we have something in common.
Yes, we do.
I am actually going on, I got divorced in 2018. So this is
7
6
years.
years. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been separated as well for 7 years.
Really?
So congratulations to us, right?
Yes. Yes. And you know what? I think what's important for people to know is if it wasn't for my awareness of ACEs, then I probably would have been still in my relationship, because when you have unresolved, unhealed trauma, you really don't know. And
And
you
knowledge is power.
no, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Knowledge is power.
It is. So that's why I term myself as the ACEs educator, and it's been working. I really love what I'm doing, just like you love what you're doing. I love that commonality that we have in regards to psychology and our backgrounds and things like that. So I really do love that. You all, she knows what she's talking about. Trust me and believe me. But what made you get started into becoming a narcissistic abuse coach?
Well, my own journey through divorce. And then I morphed from helping people divorce to the commonalities that I was seeing was protective parents were really concerned about the effects of narcissistic parents on their children. So everybody that I work with, their exes are narcissists. And if you know anything about abuse, it's always about power and control. And just because the relationship ends doesn't mean the abuse ends. In fact, it morphs into post-separation abuse. And what that really entails, really like the all-time thing is they always use children, which means that children are experiencing ACEs on a daily basis in these dysfunctional households. And so that is my passion. I've always been an educator. I've been an educator for, gosh, how old am I? 46. So for 32 years. And I've just morphed from teaching children to teaching adults how to help their children, because the worldwide legal family court system doesn't support protective parents. And so protective parents have to think outside of that box and really rely on themselves. So that's why I'm here.
Sound familiar? See, she's
doing it, we're educators, you guys. That's what you all have to understand. And
Mhm.
I think we're living in a society right now where the classroom is telling us to do one thing, but we know and desire and have this heart for our students. And it's hard to do those things when you're going through it personally and seeing it professionally. So I think that's kind of drove me into doing this as an entrepreneur. And I'll be honest, I think this is the best thing to happen to me because
Yeah.
now as a parent and having students that went through it and watching my own children go through it, I think it's needed because now they can relate to the students and know why they've bonded with the students that they interact with and work with. So, yeah.
And
My
it's a thing of beauty,
yeah,
right?
they
And
my
just,
daughters have came became ACEs ambassadors, what I call them. They're the ones that's out there in the since I can't be in the community right now or in the classroom, they're doing it. They're like, "Oh, mama, I had this young man and he did," and it's like, hmm.
and
So
how empowering is that?
it's I didn't want it to be too much for them, but I noticed that they've been doing it. It's something that we really should be talking about anyway, but they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is we should be having these talks, these hard talks with our children and involving our children. Even if you are not dealing with a narcissistic counterparent, you should still be having these discussions with your children so that your children are aware as to what abuse looks like, right? So
Right,
that they can ultimately, prevention is always the best medicine. If you can avoid partnering with this type of person, your life is going to be so much easier.
right.
Um, which is why education is so key, which is why I'm so passionate about this, which is why I make a really good guest at people's parties, because I literally, this is pretty much all I talk about, super fun. But I'm so passionate about it, right? Because I see what happens when people don't know what they're going into. And then next thing you know, they have children with this person, and that's an 18-year life sentence minimum. Um,
That's the
you know,
truth.
right?
Truth. So I'll ask because for someone that doesn't know about the word narcissist or someone that knows about it and it's overused, how do you identify what a narcissist is and how it can affect your relationship?
Okay, so the word is overused, but I think like anything, the pendulum swings, right? So 5 years ago, nobody knew what a narcissist is, and now everyone's jerk ex-husband or ex-girlfriend is a narcissist, right? Like he looks at you wrong or she looks at you wrong. Oh my gosh, they're a narcissist. So it is overused, and so there is that to contend with, but people who are really truly serious really do understand. And this is just a label, right? They're not being diagnosed because most narcissists will never go seek therapy, like true therapy. If they do, it's under the guise of pretending to be a woke man or a woke woman, trying to
Right.
reel you back into their fold, pretend, right? So they're never vulnerable. So they're never going to be diagnosed. So they say, I think about 5% of the population is actually diagnosed as this. But the truth is that there are far more walking amongst us, right? And they're everywhere. And really, at their core is a lack of empathy,
Mhm.
right? It's the lack of empathy, the lack of accountability, the avoidance of everything. They deflect and they project onto you. It's manipulation is the name of the game. So they manipulate, and there's all these different sorts of tactics that they use. But at their core, they're incredibly fragile, egoed. And they manipulate people to keep them attached to them because they don't believe that people will stay if they don't do this. And so they manipulate. Everything is a manipulation. When they're kind to you, it's manipulation. When they're not kind to you, it's manipulation. And so if people understand what this is and they can pay attention to the red flags, hopefully they can avoid partnering with this.
And that's the key. You just said something also that is overused, but it's the truth because red flags is the term.
Yeah.
But people still don't take advantage of them. They say, oh, well, they have red flags, but I can change them.
Yeah. Or it's not applicable to me, right? Or, that was just a one-off, but there are red flags, right? And to avoid, like really honestly, to avoid this type of person, most of the time, some people can take their times. Narcissists cannot maintain. They cannot maintain the curated facade, right? So when you first meet a narcissist, it's all about mirroring back what you're saying. So if you love vegan food, they love vegan food. If you want 10 kids, they want 10 kids. If you're Christian, they're Christian. If you want loyalty, they are so loyal. They will mirror back everything that you're saying. So actually, you're falling in love with yourself. That's the truth, right? And then what they do is they can't maintain this. So they can't maintain this perfect curated facade of a person who really cares about you and is loving and charismatic. And so they tend to work very fast. So they tend to, you meet them on a Monday and by Friday, you're their soulmate. I'm exaggerating for dramatic effect here. Sometimes I'm not, sometimes it does happen, but they, it's not uncommon for you to meet them in May and be married by August and then with a baby by December, right? So I always tell people, take your time, right? Partnering, having children, especially having children. I mean, you can get out of a marriage, even though I do know of people who have been married for less than a year and it's taken them 5 years to divorce a narcissist, right? With no children attached.
Right.
So who you marry can make or break your life. So take your time. It's like your biggest, longest job interview, right? Take your time. Don't move in. Ask for space. See them, but don't see them every day. Don't talk to them 20 times a day. Interview their friends and family. See how they, and listen, right? Don't divulge. Narcissists are really good at intel mining. So don't divulge every deep, dark secret because they'll use those against you later. But ask them questions and listen to what they say.
Poor Chantal, poor. Because guess what? I don't think people understand that is what the definition is coined to.
Yeah.
And
right.
I think what people have to understand is those narcissists create children.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They groom children, and it's typically the golden child, right? The child that is their favorite, flavor of the week, and that can change at any time, right? That also creates a sense of urgency within children. But the golden child is a child who aligns most closely with that parent and who also presents a perfect facade to the outside world, right? Because image is everything to a narcissist, right? They are like a fondant cake, right? They look beautiful on the outside, but they don't taste good. Like fondant doesn't taste delicious, but it looks really pretty, right? They're like that. They're rotten at the core. But to the outside world, they can present as very charismatic, very loving. You have priests, you have philanthropists, you have doctors, teachers, social workers, right? They present as whoever they want to present as. Sometimes they're very charismatic, but not every narcissist is charismatic. We also have those coverts, quiets, vulnerable ones, right? Who are self-deprecating. They're a little bit shyer. They're not grandiose. But whatever it is that they would like you to believe about them is what they will show.
And those are the tips, you guys. Listen, because see what happens again, how ACEs plays a role in this. Again, I will share. I had no clue that was exactly what I went through. So of course I'm a laugh. And it's not just my past relationship. I'm just thinking about relationships in general. Oh, you look beautiful, baby. Or, oh, yeah, I want kids too. Or, oh, I'm going to travel out of town. Oh, or I'm going to do that. All of it sounds familiar to me. But that's the reason why it's important for us to understand our unresolved, unhealed trauma. That's where ACEs plays a role to me, because that awareness is key. So I have a few more questions, and then
I probably have a few more answers.
I know you do, because I love you. So here you are, and you've been doing this for a long time. You made mention of you having you're separated, but you're not divorced yet.
I am divorced, yeah.
Congratulations. Oh God, thank you. What was your signs? What made you know that was it? Done.
I had known for a long time that I wasn't in a happy marriage, and I had tried to leave several times. But every time I left, he always changed just a little bit, just enough to reel me back in. And it was like a slippery slope. He would promise to do this, this, and this, and that would happen maybe sometimes for a week. But then he'd slide back into the behavior that I didn't want anymore. And I was crying myself to bed like 6 nights out of 7. I was on the outside. I had 2 beautiful children and I was involved in the community. I wasn't isolated as most people are. I was very involved in our community. I volunteered with my children. I worked, but I was so lonely. And you
Mm,
shouldn't be married and lonely, right?
no,
But I have never felt so alone as when I was married. And that's
yeah.
the God honest truth. And a couple of things happened. We were having like a family dinner, and my parents were there, and he was there. And he said something to the effect of, I was the least positive person he'd ever met. He said this out loud in front of my family and my children. And
Mm,
one of the things that I do know about myself, it hasn't been gaslit from me, is that I'm a very positive person. I'm pathologically positive. I can be in a pile of shit and I'm like, oh, well, it's gonna like help me grow.
right.
And so when he said this to me, it was like the first time that I was like, wait a second. You either don't know me or you're trying to hurt me. It also
Mm,
helped that there was an audible gasp around the table. Like everybody was like, what? Because it's so
right.
not who I am. And then it was a girlfriend who was like, what are you doing? What are you doing with this person? Like, he's not a partner. He's
Mhm.
like, a delinquent roommate that shows up when it's convenient and is not there when it's not convenient. And I was like, I was so mad at her. I defended my man. I was like, he worked so hard for the family. And then I gave it a week and I let it percolate. And I was like, she's really right.
Mm,
And I was the one who actually broached. I said, we were together. We were doing like a little errand together. We had dropped off our daughter at a dance thing. And I said, are we going to work on our relationship? And previously, when I'd said this, he's like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then the change happened temporarily. And this time he was like, no, let's not work on it. And I was
wow.
like, whoa, okay.
Mm. And
So,
see, I think I learned. So mine was similar, but mine was I did not know that I can have children at all. I didn't. And I ended up getting pregnant. So it was like, wait, very religious. My father's a pastor, a preacher, a reverend. And I was like, oh my God, this is a sign from God. It just blocked everything. I didn't care who, what, when, where, or why. And I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm single. We were not friends. It wasn't like that at all. He was the nice guy. I was already, no, I'm not having with everybody, but he was a nice guy. And when I got pregnant, I was like, nope, ignore him. It was about me. I was like, I'm having a baby. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And I think that's where it began for me because I was more focused on the kid. And it was like, well, let's try a relationship. And it's like, well, okay. And it's like, well, it's going well. Of course, it's going well. I'm pregnant. I'm happy. I can't think of nothing else. It is what it is. And then it was like, well, let's get married. I'm like, are you sure this is what it is? And I used to joke about it, like, are you sure you want to get married? Why? You know what I mean? All the
Yep.
vulnerable, manipulative questions. I just went for them because I was so into having the kid more than anything. And so I had no clue, ignored red flags, knew all of that. However, I also had unresolved, unhealed trauma. So I avoided everything. And the
Mhm.
awareness of ACEs is what woke me all the way up because when I started learning about it, understanding that umbrella, learning about household dysfunction, it was something I had been looking for all of my life, dealing with the unresolved, unhealed trauma I had with my parents divorcing. Surprise, surprise. So I'm trying to do whatever I can to make this relationship work because my parents' relationship didn't work, not even realizing from the beginning that that wasn't. So I had to go through that struggle of saying, okay, I got to take accountability for what I did too. Because
Mhm.
I'll be honest, a lot of it was mine. I was happy for the kid. This kid is 18 years old now, yay. But the things that she has been through in regards to all of this, I have to make her aware. She has to know what's going on. Because for me, when I was growing up, I thought that the divorce was my fault. And I had to communicate with her, communicate with my girls and let them know this wasn't their fault at all at all. So of course, being the cycle breaker, it's different. It's
Yep.
it's different. So I'm happy that there's ACEs. I'm happy that there's those words or there's those key terms as an educator for them to understand and learn. So What do you say to someone that wants to take next steps? Because this is the thing. Oh, how does narcissist impact children?
Oh my goodness. That is a poignant question. And that's actually the work that I do because, and this is where the legal system fails children and fails protective parents because the trauma these children endure. And we have to remember that abuse is so much more than a raised hand or a raised voice, right? Those are the obvious. That's like the obvious. Everyone knows that you don't hit, right? And if you hit, that's abuse. Everyone knows that yelling and name calling typically is abusive, right? What they don't understand is the covert stuff, the stuff that the manipulation that's so subtle, it's so insidious that even as adults, we don't know. And so many experts don't know, don't even acknowledge that this sort of stuff is actually abusive because it's the microaggressions on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these children, their ACE scores would be huge because they are living in toxic families,
Yep.
right? So when you're still partnered, all the children experience 100% of the time is abuse because even when it's good, right? When the abuser is in a good mood and they wake up and it's, sunshiny and rainbows, everybody in the household is still walking on eggshells. Everybody is hyper alert and hyper vigilant because at any moment, the good time can be switched and it's back to business as usual, right? So, and the good time is also manipulation. Truly, this is the thing. Narcissists do not give without taking. So anything they give you, any modicum of happiness, any gift, be it a physical gift, like an actual gift, or just their affection or time, there's always strings attached. And it's always typically because you've done something that makes them happy, right? So it's transactional. So children in these families learn that love, and I hate to use this word because I don't actually believe that love and abuse can coexist. But they believe that they grow up to believe that love is transactional.
Mm-hmm.
So when children are now raised in two households, which can be an ACE, right? There's now two homes, divorces on the ACE score, right? But at least when you have two homes, one of which is 100% toxic and the other is a healing home with a protective parent who's trying their best to, instill good values and morals and create a safe haven for their children. At least in this one home, children have a chance at seeing what healthy looks like, seeing what love actually looks like, feels like, and sounds like, right? Because they're not getting that in their other home. But it's the torment that these children are under, the mental manipulation that they have to endure. Every single narcissistic counter parent will always try to turn their children against their protective parent. I'm not making this up. It's every single one. Sometimes it's very covert. It doesn't look like a lot, but they always disparage the other parent. And it can be very simple things. It doesn't have to be like, oh, your mom or your dad sucks, right? You can't like them. They're the reason this family broke up. It can be like, I'm so sorry that your mom or your dad doesn't take care of you the way that I do. And now you've planted a seed of doubt in the child's mind. Oh, so is my parent not okay? Am I not safe when I go to that parent's house?
Right.
So, one instance could just be like a bad day, but it's never just one instance. And it's typically hundreds of these instances in a daily, weekly, monthly basis that add up. So every time this child has to engage with this parent, they're being traumatized.
Right.
Right. And their little nervous systems are completely dysregulated because every time you have to engage with an abuser, your nervous system, is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And you literally come back to your protective parent and you're completely dysregulated, which is why so many protective parents, when they have their transitions, their kids are a mess. And they're pulling their hair out going, I'm the worst parent. My child is so misbehaved with me. They're rude and they're belligerent and they swear at me. Sometimes they slam the doors and they go into their room where they're fighting with each other. That's because they can't be themselves in the other home and they're completely dysregulated and they come back to you and you help them co-regulate, right? Your nervous system, this is why self-care is so important for protective parents because you, yourself, your physical presence helps your children regulate.
Come on. I'm listening. I mean, we're listening. Yes, yes.
So this is how abuse affects children, right? And it affects them at their core. And this is the damage that the worldwide family court system does. Because truthfully, even though it's a different ACE, right? Being abandoned by a parent is a whole other trauma. The trauma that an active narcissistic parent does to a child is, I believe, so much more damaging than a child who doesn't have a certain parent in their lives.
I have to come up with something for 2025 because you feeding. I think it's so important because this is how we're going to help. You said all the key terms, self-care. Number one, we can do this, you guys. Education is key. I promise. Because if you don't know, you're putting yourself in situations when you think of, oh, well, let's not ignore the red flags, or, oh, this is not going to have an effect on my children. It will. It will affect, even if you stay. So let's be clear. If you leave, it's going to affect. If you stay, it's going to affect. So it wouldn't matter, well, I'm going to stay. Oh, I think it's the best thing. And oh, I'm going to stay for this abuse. It's going to happen with or without, with the parent, without the parent. So understand, you guys, being around a narcissist, it does have an impact on children that will lead to adverse childhood experiences. What happens is those adverse childhood experiences turn into adult experiences, which is the reason why, again, when I was younger, that unresolved childhood trauma came into my relationship. Somebody has to be the person to break the cycle. So that's why we are here, you guys. Now, I will share with you guys, you can co-parent with the narcissist. And I'm going to tell you, it can happen. I know someone that can help you. She's looking dead at you. Her name is Chantal. And I tell you, I actually like the private coaching program that you have. And I did my research, of course, you know, I'm a researcher. I did my research. I like it. Can you explain it to people so they can understand and know? Because I'm actually interested.
The private coaching program? Okay, so my private coaching program is for parents who want more. They want the connection that private offers. So it's 8 weeks. And what it really does is it's tailored specifically to your unique situation, your issues, right? So depending on your ex, depending on how many children you have, where you live in the world, the support systems you have, right? So I tailor my coaching specifically to what you need. For some parents, that's trying to navigate a child who no longer wants to come back to them because they've been turned against them, right? For other parents, it's helping their children learn what this is without disparaging the other parent, because that's a big thing. I don't believe in disparaging the other parent, despite the fact that this parent deserves that. Your child has to come to that on their own. Our job is to educate our children so that we can empower them as well. And that always starts with the parent. So when we're educated and empowered, we naturally show up as educated and empowered parents who then can educate and empower our children. It's if you're not educated, you can't educate your children. If you don't feel empowered, you can't empower your children, right? So everything that we say is somewhat effective, but it's us leading, us modeling what we want our children to learn. So I can say, don't smoke, but if I'm saying that while I'm smoking my cigarette, right? Like it's not going to be as effective as me leading a healthy life, right? And me exercising, taking care of my body. So my program is to help parents really understand what they're dealing with and to anticipate what's going to happen so that they can mitigate the effects on both themselves and their children, because everything comes back to the parent. If you're broken, you can't help your children. If you're depleted, you can't be there for your children. If you are exhausted, you cannot be responsive. You're going to be reactive with your children and also your ex, and that's just going to stoke fire, right? So if you are healing, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're educating yourself, you are the foundation. Everything comes from you. So when you are taking care of yourself, you show up better across the board for yourself, for your peers, your colleagues, your friends, your family, and most importantly, your children.
And that's why we're here. And you are aware of ACEs. You are aware of its effects. I love that you talked about it messing with our nervous systems and things of that nature. I think that's the reason why I'm trying to get the term back out there. It's a term that has been used. We just don't use it often. And I think in the Black community, we don't use it often because we're afraid
of therapy. And that's the reason why I encourage coaching. I encourage talking to people like us. I am a dissertation coach, which is interesting. I started off because I'm a first generation high school graduate, but people don't know that me being a first generation high school graduate turned doctor, nobody to this day asks me about my brother. I have an older brother. Let's be clear. I can't, when I'm doing speaking engagements, and it's, Dr. Torie, the first generation, da, da. But do you know my story for real? And it depends on where I'm at when I have that conversation, where people can understand my passion too for going and understanding and educating people on ACEs. So let's be clear. I adore you because you make it so normal to have this conversation about addressing the co-parenting, the narcissistic, the helping out the children. You're a whole total package. I appreciate you so much. So let me ask one more good question. For someone with ACEs that understands this now, how can they understand ACEs and help themselves heal from this?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, first they have to understand. So they already have that piece, right? And then they have to connect with the right people,
Right.
right? This is so imperative. It's one thing to read about something, right? I can read about all the exercises it's going to take to get, toned body and to eat right. But most people can't do things on their own. They can't just read something and then implement the action that they read, right? Most people need an expert to help guide them. So truthfully, coaching, therapy, this is really imperative, right? This is really going to help expedite your healing journey. And what you invest in yourself really does have a ripple effect on those around you, not only for yourself, and it should really be for yourself, right? We should stop doing things for other people. Yes, our children are amazing, but we should do things because it's good for us. Right? Feeds our soul. It helps us lead a better, happier, healthier life. But then from that, again, everybody around us, right? Just like a narcissist impacts everybody that they come in contact with. When you are healing, and you're never going to be fully healed. This is a journey, right? And healing is not linear, it's forward and back. But when you do this, the impact you have on everybody around you can really be felt and seen, right? Because you're calmer, you're happier, you're more confident. You make better choices based on what you know and versus what you don't know. I hate the word ignorance because it sounds like you're not very educated, but it's just sometimes you just don't know, right? And you don't know because you've not been taught, and that's not because of you being bad. It's just it wasn't part of your thing. Like I didn't even know that this was even a thing. I didn't know that narcissism was a thing, right? I didn't understand this until somebody told me in downward dog at yoga, hey, have you heard about narcissism? And I was like, no.
Right.
Well, hello. That was my hallelujah moment. And it's been a deep dive ever since, right? So this is why having conversations, this is why things like this podcast, Instagram, all this stuff, right? This is education at your fingertips, right? Like this is free education, free resources, right? This is why people should be listening, talking, and it's not just people who feel like they're in need. It's when you're educated, you can help those around you. You can help better understand, like children, poor kids, right? These poor kids who are dysregulated go into classroom and then are forced to learn. How can a child who hasn't been fed, who's just witnessed their mom being beaten or, like whatever it is, how can they possibly show up as their best selves in a classroom, right?
Yeah.
So this is why education is so key. This is why people need to connect. People need to talk. I'm a talker. I could talk all day long. So yeah.
I know, because this is what people don't understand and know. So okay, one more good question. Knowing your awareness of ACEs and all of the experience you have, did your new awareness of ACEs help your practice and help you professionally and personally, or did it hurt you?
It helped me.
Interesting.
And I said this off camera before we started, but I only know about ACEs because of you, right? So what you're doing is working.
Yes. Thank you.
It really is working because yes, I think this term has been around since 1977, but Like how many people, like you put 10 people in a room, how many people are going to be able to actually talk about adverse childhood experiences and understand what that actually means? Very few,
Mm.
right? So this is why what you're doing is so imperative, right? Because it also helps to educate educators. I'm an educator, but it doesn't mean that my education stops just because I'm educating people on this, right? Like my knowledge was stunted until I stumbled upon, I think it was your Instagram, and then your podcast, right? So then you opened up my eyes. I was like, oh, that's a new piece of the puzzle that I can incorporate into what I do.
Very good.
Everything like this is why you've been saying I haven't been able to get a word in edgewise that way because you come up with like a question after you like compliment me. But I also love you and I love what you're doing and I love what you stand for and I love how fierce and powerful you are and how passionate you are about spreading the word and helping people. I relate to that a lot. But I think that yeah, so the love is mutual.
Thank you. This conference is so important to me. I let the people know we do have a lot of speakers. I'm not going to say that we don't. I am blessed. I started doing the book launch that turned into a 3-city book launch that turned into this conference because the people from the podcast are people like you. They are experts, they're educators, they're doctors, they are therapists. I've done research, I've done a bunch of stuff. And so we're meeting. I promise you, we have to do this again because people need to hear from you, not just in this podcast. I think you will love the community. I already know and did some research. You got about 20 people from my community that are already your friends on Instagram. I'm telling you now, I think once we start doing a collective and getting more people available, we can do this self-care on our own. I'm not for sure if you know, I have not been in the political ploy of things here recently. I'll just be totally honest, but I know for a fact I'm watching as things are starting to shut down and medical health, these type of things. Self-care is going to be more than important for us right now. And we're going to have to get with those people that know that content, that knowledge to help us heal because they're about to start shutting down things. And right now, if we start shutting down, our bodies are going to start shutting down. Everything's going to shut down. And I think awareness is going to help us, period. So I'm letting you know, I thank you. I love you. You're stuck with me and you know that. But please let people know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Mostly on Instagram. It's my favorite platform. Right? But it just feeds off into Facebook. No offense to Facebook.
Yeah.
And TikTok, I'm just starting. My girlfriend's like, you need to spread. You can't just be in all your eggs in one basket. But you can also find me on my website, chantalcontorinescoaching.com, and on Instagram at Chantal Contorines Coaching. So that's my handle.
You all will see us together again. Trust me, because again, this movement is not something we're doing. You can feel your passion as you talk about it. Just even when you post or when you have these discussions and the interaction with the people, they are ready. I am one of those people, you guys. I've been heavy on it because I can't just be out here advocating and not doing anything. So shout out to my coaches who have been instrumental in my healing. Somebody told me I was glowing. I am, but I feel so happy because I made decisions that not understanding and not educating, I thought was not the right thing. It was hurting, but I know more and more as I go through this healing journey how I'm helping not just myself, but my daughters heal. And that's what cycle breakers do. So I got to give you your props. I got to tell you again, thank you so much for being here. You guys, you have her information. You will be seeing us together. You all know me. It's Dr. Victorious. I'm everywhere. No, I'm not. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. It's my favorite too. Of course, Instagram feeds into Facebook, like you said. I'm on in TikTok. I haven't been. I'm a mommy on there, so I do the dancing surprisingly, but I haven't been here recently. Just because I've been planning and doing some things, and I've taken this step out just so I'll share with you to be a mom to my senior, the one that I was telling you about, just to see her full swing, 18 years old, the one that changed my life. Absolutely, because she earned it. she deserves it. I definitely want to be there for her because I also understand my inner child did not have that. So I'm helping myself heal this way too. So thank you. You're more than a blessing.
And thank you. Honestly, the feeling is very mutual, as you know. And anytime you want to collaborate, I'm here for it.
I
And I
appreciate
do. Like, you are such a powerhouse, and what you're doing is really changing lives,
Thank,
right?
thank you. I'm so excited again. This conference is going to be the game changer. I wish, I would have gave people a little bit more time for people to come, but I know now me planning and doing what I'm doing, I have to do it again. So of course I'll extend that invitation to you ahead of time so we can get together, reunite, do what we need to do in order to change this environment and help our mental health community. So you guys can buy my book everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's on my website if you want a personalized copy, BeVicTORIEus.com. And you all get ready for our ACEs International Awareness Conference in Chicago at the DoubleTree Hilton, April 23rd through the 25th at the DoubleTree Hilton in Alsip. Thank you again for another wonderful episode of Be Victorious. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, you guys.